December 7, 1941. Pearl Harbor is on fire. A 22-year-old black sailor from Waco, Texas, is collecting laundry below decks when the Japanese bomb starts falling. His name is Doris Miller. His job title is mess attendant. He has never been trained to fire a weapon. Black sailors in the segregated Navy of 1941 were not allowed that training. Then he walks to an unmanned anti-aircraft gun, a weapon he has never touched in his life, and he opens fire on Japanese fighter planes, screaming low over Pearl Harbor. He stays at that gun until it runs out of ammunition. He is one of the last 3 men to leave the ship as it sinks. For that, the United States Navy awarded him the Navy Cross. And today, in a shipyard in Newport News, Virginia, they are building the most powerful supercarrier in history of the United States Navy, and they named it after him. Meet the USS Doris Miller, CVN-81. This ship isn't just the next carrier of the line. It is a technological leap over every aircraft carrier America has ever built. More electrical power, more aircraft, more automation, more lethality. And right now, it's under construction in the only shipyard in America that can build a nuclear-powered carrier. I'm gonna take you inside every one of this monster's capabilities, one by one. Before we talk about the ship, we need to spend a moment on the man whose name it carries. Because the story of Doris Miller is one of the most important stories in the history of American military service, and not enough people know it. Doris Miller was born on October 12, 1919, in Waco, Texas. He enlisted in the Navy in September 1939 as a mass attendant, one of the only occupational specialties then available to a black man in the U.S. Navy. That's important context. The Navy was segregated. Black sailors were assigned to serve food, clean compartments, and support the ship's daily operations from behind the scenes. They were not trained as gunners. They were not given combat roles. That was the Navy Doris Miller enlisted into. On December 17, 1941, that policy met a man it couldn't contain. When the Japanese attack began, Miller carried his mortally wounded captain to safety. Then he walked to an unattended anti-aircraft gun, a Browning 50 caliber, loaded it himself, and fired at incoming enemy aircraft. He had never received a single day of gunnery training. The Navy Cross citation reads, "Distinguished himself by a courageous conduct and devotion to duty, beyond the call of his prescribed tasks." He was the first African American ever awarded the Navy Cross. Doris Miller died on November 24, 1943, when the escort carrier USS Liscombe Bay was torpedoed by a Japanese submarine during the invasion of Gilbert Islands. He was 24 years old. On January 2020, the U.S. Navy announced that its newest and most powerful aircraft carrier would carry his name, CVN-81, the USS Doris Miller, the first aircraft carrier ever named to honor a sailor for actions performed as an enlisted service member. Drop Dory in the comments if you think this man deserved that honor. I want to see this community recognize him. And real quick, if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button now. I put serious research into every video on this channel, and your support is what makes it possible. 2 seconds, let's keep going. Now let's talk about the warship being built in his honor. The USS Doris Miller is the 4th ship in the Gerald R Ford class of aircraft carriers. Here are the raw numbers. Full load displacement, approximately 100,000 long tons. Length, 1,106 feet. That's over a fifth of a mile of warship. Beam, 134 feet. Flight deck width, 256 feet. Top speed, in excess of 30 knots. The ship will carry a complement of 4,660 personnel when the ship's company and full air wing are both aboard. That is a small city at sea, moving at 30 knots, carrying up to 90 combat aircraft. The contract to build CVN-81 was awarded to Hills Newport News Shipbuilding on January 31, 2019, as part of $15.2 billion to carry block buy with the U.S. Enterprise CVN-80. Steel cutting for Doris Miller began at the Newport News facility on August 25, 2021. The keel laying is scheduled for this year, 2026. Plan launched October 29. Delivery to the Navy, February 2034. She will replace U.S. Carl Vinson CVN-70 upon entering the fleet. And when she does, she will be the most advanced, most lethal, most capable aircraft carrier the United States has ever commissioned. Let's start with the engine, because everything about the Doris Miller flows from its power plant. The ship is powered by two A1B nuclear reactors. These are not the same reactors that power the Nimitz-class carriers. The Nimitz-class ran on A4W reactors, producing roughly 150 megawatts of thermal power per unit. The A1B reactor generates approximately 25% more thermal power than the A4W. And here's the number that matters. The A1B produces 3 times the electrical output of the reactors on the Nimitz class. Total electrical generating capacity on the Ford class, approximately 700 megawatts. For comparison, the entire city of Portsmouth, New Hampshire draws roughly the same amount of electrical power on a warship. Why does that matter? Because every next generation weapon system, every advanced radar array, every electromagnetic catapult, every future directed energy weapon, every automation system runs on electricity. The A1B reactor doesn't just move the ship, it generates the electrical architecture for the next 50 years of naval warfare. The Doris Miller is designed to serve for 50 years without replacing its nuclear fuel. Unlimited range, unlimited endurance, the only constraint is food and stores for the crew. Here's one of the most significant technological leaps that the Doris Miller inherits from the Ford class and improves upon. The Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System, EMALS. Old carriers use steam catapults. Steam catapults work, the Navy has used them for decades, but they're rough. They apply force that peaks fast and hits the airframe hard every single time an aircraft launches. Over a career of fleet operations, that stress accumulates. EMALS use a linear induction motor to precisely control the acceleration curve of every single aircraft launch. The force builds smoothly. The aircraft's airframe experiences less stress. Maintenance cycles improve. Airframe life extends. And EMALS can launch a wider variety of aircraft, including heavier next-generation platforms and unmanned systems that steam catapults can't handle effectively. On June 8, 2023, the Navy awarded General Atomics a contract modification valued at $1.204 billion, specifically for the production and integration of EMALS and the advanced arresting gear of CVN-81. The goal is a sortie generation rate of up to 160 sorties per day under surge conditions. 160. That is 33% improvement over what the Nimitz class could generate. More launches per day means more aircraft over the target. And more aircraft over the target means more combat effect. And the advanced arresting gear recovers those aircraft with same precision controls that EMALS provides on launch. Here's what I didn't expect to find when I went deep into this research. The Doris Miller is the second aircraft carrier in American history to be built entirely using digital drawings and digital procedures, rather than traditional paperwork packages. Think about what that actually means. Every single weld specification, every pipe run, every cable route, every structural element of a 100,000-ton nuclear-powered supercarrier exists as a digital data file. 4 petabytes of design data for scale. 4 petabytes is 4 trillion bytes of information. That digital blueprint allows Hill to use robotic welding systems and what the Shipyard calls smart outfitting techniques that they project will cut touch labor requirements by 18%. Compared to earlier hulls, the ship requires 14 million labor hours to build. 14 million. But it's because it's built digitally. Those hours are spent more efficiently, with fewer errors, and with better quality verification at every stage. This isn't just a more capable carrier, it's a more intelligently built one. And here's something that will sit with you. Doris Miller's great-nephew, Thomas Bledsoe, was present at the steel cutting ceremony on August 25, 2021, in Newport News. He gave the order to cut the steel, the first cut on the most powerful warship his great-uncle's name will ever carry. Now let's talk about what this ship will actually fight with. CVN-81 will be equipped with 9 fixed-face SPY-6 V3 radar arrays, providing 360-degree coverage against ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and hypersonic threats simultaneously. The SPY-6 is 30 times more sensitive than the radar systems it replaces. 30 times. That means the Doris Miller can detect and begin tracking threats far earlier in their flight path than any previous American carrier. For air defense, the ship carries the evolved Sea Sparrow missile system and the rolling airframe missile as layered protection. The Doris Miller also benefits from the lessons learned on the U.S. Gerald R. Ford, specifically regarding the weapons elevators. Ford's 11 weapons elevators caused major headaches during the carrier's earlier service and contributed directly to her delayed deployment. Each elevator carries munitions from the magazines deep in the ship up to the flight deck for loading onto aircraft. If the elevators don't work reliably, the sortie rate collapses. CVN-81 weapons elevator systems incorporate the engineering corrections learned from Ford's operational experience. The electrical architecture, drawn from those 700 megawatts of reactor output, is also designed with modular capability for future directed energy weapons, lasers, and railguns that the Navy plans to integrate into the class as those technologies mature. Let's talk about the aircraft the ship will carry. The Doris Miller is designed to operate more than 80 aircraft with capacity approaching 90 under surge conditions. The air wing center on the FA-18E and F Super Hornets for multi-role strike and fleet defense, the EA-18G Growler for electronic warfare and jamming. 3 E-2D advanced Hawkeyes for airborne early warnings extended the carrier's eyes, hundreds of miles in every direction. F-35C Lightning II stealth fighters for penetrating defended airspace. And the MQ-25 Stingray, the Navy's unmanned aerial refueling tanker, which the Doris Miller is specifically designed to support. The MQ-25 is critical. When an aircraft carrier operates fighter jets, a significant portion of those aircraft have historically been used as buddy tankers, burning fuel to refuel other aircraft in flight, rather than carrying weapons and striking targets. The MQ-25 takes over the refueling mission. A drone does the tanking. Every manned aircraft goes to the fight with weapons that dramatically extend the effective combat radius of every strike fighter aboard. The Doris Miller flight deck and aviation systems were designed from the outset to integrate unmanned platforms alongside manned aircraft. This is the future of carrier aviation, and CVN-81 is the first ship built to operate it from the ground up. Here's the current picture. As of right now, construction of CVN-81 at Newport News is actively underway. Steel fabrication is progressing, structural modules are moving through outfitting. The keel laying is planned for this year, 2026. Newport News shipbuilding president Kerry Wilkinson confirmed at Hill's first quarter 2026 earnings call that CVN-81 units continue to move through steel fabrication in support of the keel laying. In a historic first, Enterprise CVN-80 was floated and moved to the west end of the dry dock to allow assembly of Doris Miller in the east end of the same dry dock, meaning 2 Gerald R. Ford class carriers are under construction in the same dry dock simultaneously. That has never happened before in American history. And if you've been watching this channel, you know I give you the full picture, not just the headlines, because there are real challenges here that affect when the ship enters service and what it can actually do when it does. In May 2026, USNI News confirmed that the Doris Miller has been delayed by 2 years. The new delivery date is February 2034, pushed back from February 2032. Under that timeline, the total build time from steel cutting to delivery is 15 years. 15 years. The reason, according to the Navy's FY 2027 shipbuilding book, Shipbuilders Construction Footprint Constraints, limiting their ability to build CVN-81 ship modules. In plain English, the delays on CVN-80 Enterprise have created a cascading bottleneck. Enterprise is occupying the only space with the heavy lift crane needed for a large assembly operations. Until Enterprise clears that space, Doris Miller can't fully move in. The USS John F. Kennedy, CVN-79, is now not expected to deliver until March 2027. Enterprise until March 2031, Doris Miller until February 2034. Every single Ford-class carrier is behind schedule. This is a systemic issue. Newport News is the only shipyard in America capable of building nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. They are simultaneously building Ford-class carriers and Virginia-class submarines on the same waterfront with the same workforce. The skilled trade shortage is real. Inflation-driven labor pressures are real. COVID-era workforce retirements created gaps that take years to train back. And the broader strategic question that defense analysts are asking right now is 15 years to build one carrier fast enough when China built its Type 003 Fusion in 6 years. By 2035, the Pentagon projects China could have up to 6 aircraft carriers. The Doris Miller doesn't even commission until 2034. These are hard facts. They matter, and you deserve to hear them. Here's what you take away. On December 17, 1941, a young mess attendant with no combat training and no authority to fight picked up a gun and defended his country anyway. The Navy is building the most powerful supercarrier in American history, and they named it after him. 1,160 feet long, 100,000 tons. 2 nuclear reactors producing 700 megawatts of power, up to 90 aircraft, 160 sorties per day, a 50-year service life. The USS Doris Miller is America's next monster supercarrier, and the man it honors earned that right, the hard way. If this video gave you something real, hit like and subscribe. This community means everything. I'll see you in the next one. Stay sharp.